Happy Friday! Welcome to the Friday edition of Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Over the next couple of hours, we're going to get into some NBA. We're going to get into some college football. We've got coaching talk, petting talk. It's a stacked show. But Caroline, we all stayed up last night and watched a trash football game. Thursday night football happened last night. The Broncos get a 10-7 win. That is not a misspeak over my beloved Raiders in this game. And I'm here to tell you, we can talk all day long about whether the Broncos are going to the playoffs. The answer to that is clearly yes. But a total different question is, are the Broncos actually a good football team? Because what I watched last night, just use the eye test metric. What we saw last night from the Denver Broncos is nowhere near on par for what we see from the other good teams in the AFC. Yeah, they're winning games, but I think the Denver Broncos are broken in front of our very eyes.
Unfortunately, yes, we did have Thursday night football last night, Fitz, and it was the kind of football game that I feel like sets the game of football and the National Football League back decades. Like, that game was so bad, it made me angry. I felt it in my bones, just how terrible it was. That's what the game was last night. It was like Bo Nix was closing his eyes and just, throwing up a prayer and hoping for the best. That was single-handedly one of the worst games that I think I have ever watched in my entire life. Like, that was one of the worst games. It was up there with, I believe it was the 2022 season. Do you remember that Russell Wilson Broncos-led team against the Indianapolis Colts? It was like comically bad. Last night was right up there. I mean, the Broncos are making the playoffs. The Broncos are 8-2. The Broncos are the only 8-win football team in the National Football League. The Broncos sit atop their division. Like, yes, the Broncos are making the playoffs. But there's the old adage in football, right? That you are what your record says you are. That is not the Broncos. The Broncos might be 8-2, but they're not an 8-2 football team. That offense was atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. On their first 4 drives, they went 3 and out and totaled 17 yards on 4 drives. And we're talking about the Raiders. The Raiders have a bottom half defense that are allowing 350 yards per game. No offense, Fitz. I know that is your team. But it's not like the Raiders are any sort of world beaters. I got up here yesterday and talked about how I thought the Denver Broncos could win the Super Bowl and could overcome the shortcomings of Bo Nix. Never mind. I take it back. Throw everything out. I was lying. I didn't mean it. No, the Broncos cannot win a Super Bowl. Yes, they have an elite defense, but that offense is so bad. Bo Nix looked so bad at times last night, but there is no way this team can even sniff a Super Bowl, much less win one.
Well, one of the comps that we always make, you've made it, I've made it, is, look, we've seen Trent Dilfer win Super Bowls. We've seen, less than quarterbacks. Like, that's insulting to Trent Dilfer. All right, at this point, Bo Nix played so poorly, it's insulting to say his name in the same sentence as Trent Dilfer. And this is why, like, guys, I don't think we just have a right now problem for the Denver Broncos. I think it's time to start having a long-term question about Bo Nix and his ability. I know at the end of last year, his rookie year, things turned around, and all of a sudden we saw this good from Bo, and everybody said, hey, look at the big steps he's taken forward. But we talked yesterday about his accuracy issues and how it's leaving yards on the field. I watched that game last night, and I saw receiver after receiver after receiver open. I didn't see Bo Nix getting pressured from all over the place. I saw Bo holding on to the ball for a little bit too long and then not knowing where to go with the football. I saw hitches in his mechanics that we've all seen that left wide open guys not even getting the football anywhere near them. We have a long-term question about if Bo Nix is the starter. Is he the franchise for the Denver Broncos? And I don't know why we've just flocked to give him so much benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's Sean Payton. Maybe it's the Broncos. Maybe it's the fact that the Broncos defense is so good and the team's been ahead of the sticks the entire way of his career. But it feels like we're desperately trying to make Bo Nix into a franchise guy. You can't watch last night's football game and tell me that right now you believe that Bo Nix can be in the same category as Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Burrow. Go up and down the board. He's not in the same category as Herbert. Like, at some point, we need to have a real conversation about not the games they're winning, because the Broncos have one win this year over a team with a winning record. So I don't care about their record right now. I care about what we saw. And what we saw last night is that Bo Nix is not it when it comes to the quarterback position right now. And I'm not sure that there's a path that gets Bo Nix to the level of elite that you would expect for a first-round draft pick quarterback that's supposed to be on a Super Bowl caliber football team.
Fitz, after last night, I don't even think that we can put Bo Nix in the same category as Mac Jones. Like, I would rather have Mac Jones as my starting quarterback over Bo Nix, and I don't even think it's close. Like, we need to start having the conversation about, is Bo Nix one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the NFL? Like, last night was so bad. I mean, that interception late in the first half, Kirk Herbstreit was like, man, that wasn't even a 50-50 ball. Like, yeah, Kirk, that's a nice way of putting it, because there wasn't an orange jersey even in the same stratosphere. And I always joke, I feel like every single game, get your bingo card out because Bo Nix throwing an interception surely is on there for every Broncos game. It just feels like there's an obligatory Bo Nix pick every single week. And I feel like sometimes we can joke about that. Sometimes it's funny because the Broncos are able to overcome that. But last night, it wasn't even funny. Last night, it was like, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. The fact that you get the ball after you block a punt on the Raiders' 12-yard line and you have to settle for a field goal. Like, it is so just beyond me how it could have gotten to this point and how it is so bad. I mean, you even saw Broncos fans booing in the stands because I feel bad that they had to spend their hard-earned money on watching that poop fest last night. And yes, Bo Nix gets a really big part of the blame pie, but I don't think that Sean Payton is innocent in all of this. Sean Payton is supposed to be the offensive genius mastermind that we all know him to be. But when it's 3rd and 1 and you throw a backwards pass, that's not a Bo Nix issue. That's a play calling issue. That's a Sean Payton issue. I think week over week, Bo Nix has only gotten worse. Bo Nix has regressed. Bo Nix is worse in his second year than he was in his rookie season. I don't think that's unfair to say. So that falls on coaching. That falls on Sean Payton. So at some point, I think we need to start having the conversation about Sean Payton. Is Sean Payton just Jimbo Fisher? Because think about Jimbo Fisher. He won a national championship at Florida State. He was known as an offensive mastermind. And then year over year over year in his tenure at Texas A&M, the team just got worse because Jimbo Fisher couldn't evolve. Jimbo Fisher couldn't bring his 2014 offense into 2022. He couldn't evolve. I feel like Sean Payton might be in the same stratosphere. Like, it's not 2008 anymore, Sean. Like, I know Sean Payton won a Super Bowl. I know Sean Payton will probably be in Canton one day. And I have a whole lot of respect for Sean Payton. But that doesn't look like a 2025 NFL offense. That looks like an identityless and lackluster offense. And yes, it starts with Bo Nix, but Sean Payton also deserves a slice of the blame pie.
Yeah, I would argue right now the most important coach in Denver is Vance Joseph, their defensive coordinator. He's the one doing the best job.
1000%.
This defense is absolutely incredible. And look, I'm taking it feels like we're coming in and absolutely trashing the Broncos after a win. And I think it comes back to, the old adage of like standards create reactions, right? So the standard here was going to be, hey, you should go in and just absolutely destroy this Raiders team. This Raiders team got the ball in plus territory over and over and over and over again and could do nothing with it because this Raiders team is just bad. So the expectation when you're 8-2 is that you're going to come in and you're going to show everybody, hey, here's the calming force. Like, here is the moment that we say, all right, everything's going to be just fine with this team because we're going to go whoop up on the Raiders and we're going to remind you. I will again remind everybody, so far, if we were in the college football playoff committee, we'd be talking about strength of schedule with the Broncos a lot. They have one quality win, and it's a win over the Eagles in a game that they were trailing in that a miraculous comeback. It's absolutely incredible. Mm-hmm. But they have one quality win. The rest of what they've done is beat up on bad teams, and at times, even that hasn't looked easy. And that's part of why we see this every year. We saw the Giants a few years ago go on a run, and everybody was trying to figure out, does that mean the Giants are going to be good in the playoffs? We saw a Philly team a few years ago that was winning a bunch of games, and I think they started 10-1. And everybody's like, why are we questioning that team? Well, because we're watching it. It doesn't look right. I watched the Raiders go on a run a few years ago with Rich Bisaccia as the interim head coach that took him to the playoffs, and it was magical and it was fun. But we all knew deep inside our heart that that wasn't a very good football team. We're watching a Denver defense that is absolutely epic. They are elite, and we're watching a Denver offense that, frankly, we'd be destroying if it was in any other place. Look at the quarterback conversations that we've had around Caleb Williams over and over and over again. No matter what Caleb does, it just isn't good enough. Even when he's making steps forward, he's still being held to some wild standard. Jaden Daniels, overanalyzed for everything he does, but he continues to be sort of the beacon of light. Drake May is becoming a superstar in front of our eyes. These are the expectations of that quarterback draft class. And we saw just a flashing moment, a fleeting moment of that last season for Bo Nix. What we cannot do is take 5 or 6 games from a rookie year and turn that into a narrative of who somebody is. At some point, you are what the entirety of your body of work is. And right now, the entirety of the body of work for Bo Nix is being generous, mediocre, being harsh. It's trash. And you're right. I don't even know if Bo Nix is a long-term starting quarterback in the NFL, nonetheless a superstar. I certainly want him to succeed, but golly, you're getting every opportunity you possibly could with the coaching that you have, with apparently the roster that you have, with the defense that you have. You're getting every advantage, and all you are doing is just making even the basic things look difficult. It's inexcusable.
It's inexcusable, and it's the opposite of what we talk about with the Dallas Cowboys. That I thought it was a crime against football and humanity for Dak Prescott to be playing at an MVP level and for the Cowboys defense to be as atrocious as it has been all season. I hate to see an elite unit go completely wasted because the other side of the ball can't carry their own weight. None of us are asking. I don't think anyone is asking Bo Nix to be in the elite category of quarterbacks. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He is not Lamar Jackson. He is not Joe Burrow. But he doesn't need to be elite. All he needs to be, Fitz, is competent to take care of the football, to continue to, put the pieces together of Sean Payton's offense. Like, he needs to just do enough offensively to let the defense carry them. And for the most part, that's what they have been doing. Look, the defense has bailed Denver out and Bo Nix out of a whole lot of holes. And look, they are 8-2. That is a system that I guess, if you want to say, is working. Sure, yeah, they're 8-2 and they're going to make the playoffs and they're the top seed in the division. But I can't trust that. I can't trust that defense. As elite as it is, I can't trust that defense to continue to carry this team when the offense is as lackluster as it is. I can't trust Bo Nix to not make a mind-numbingly stupid mistake in the playoffs because they're going to have to face Buffalo or Kansas City or the Indianapolis Colts in the playoffs. They're going to have to get through some of those teams and those quarterbacks to find their way to a Super Bowl. I trust those quarterbacks to not make the mistakes that I expect Bo Nix to make. And it is so frustrating to see that defense essentially go wasted on an offense that can't figure itself out.
A reminder, even within their 10 points, 3 points came after a blocked punt deep in Raiders territory where they got the ball on a drive starting 12 yards from the end zone. And the touchdown came on a short field after the Raiders went for it on 4th down and were sacked at midfield. So their 10 points came from 2 short field drives. The rest of the game was basically nothing. And speaking of basically nothing, that's the other side of this. I will quickly say the Raiders are just a bad football team. I said this last night. 2 things can be true. You can suck. Oh, look at that. They got it there. You can suck. And then, man, a bunch of these. This is the 3rd time this year. Like, look, I didn't expect it. I thought the Raiders were going to get beaten this game. That's not a big shocking revelation. But Daniel Carlson has been a pretty consistent good kicker for most of his career. Trotting out there, I knew he was going to miss that kick. There was just no chance. So now I got this weird Broncos game where you're sitting around saying, man, they tried to give us the game. We just couldn't take advantage of it. Got to watch that. On top of, just a few days ago watching the 2-point conversion, failed attempt in overtime where the receiver was wide open. And just a few weeks ago watching a wild field goal block against the Bears. I got 3 losses this year where I'm just sitting there saying, guys, I know we suck, but good Lord, this is just like, you just sit back and say, can we find any weirder way? That the old adage somebody told me years ago that I hate is good teams find a way to win, bad teams find a way to lose. And I hate it because it's true, and my team's bad, and they found a way to lose. Here's to next year. I will join all of you as we toast and say next year's going to be better, even though it probably won't. Okay, we're going to keep breaking out all the action coming. We got a big weekend of football coming up from Juice TD Tractor says, I would not be surprised if the 49ers beat the Rams Sunday. I would not be surprised if the 49ers lost by 20 to the Rams Sunday. This is a summary of the 2025 49ers season. Week to week, it depends on which version of the team shows up, which brings us, Caroline Fenton, to this week's Game of the Year, because this week's Game of the Year is certainly Rams taking on the 49ers. Everybody's hyped for this one. There is so much on the line. And I feel you, if you would read that tweet, and the way that he was just talking about the 49ers, it would have you think that the 49ers are, a losing team that's barely out there. No, the 49ers are 6-3, taking on the Rams 6-2. And there is so much on the line. It feels like both teams can make such a statement. Mac Jones can have a revelation. It's Game of the Year this week.
Yeah, every week we have a Game of the Year, just like every year we have a generational player. And it's great. It's so wonderful that we get a Game of the Year every single week. But all joking aside, this game is massive. We've talked a lot on this show, rightfully so, about the depth of the NFC West and how competitive the NFC West is. There is a realistic world in which at least 3, if not all 4 of the teams in the NFC West are going to find themselves at the postseason. Now, the Arizona Cardinals have a whole lot of work to do, but look, there's still, a possibility there to find themselves in the postseason. The 49ers, I have to give so much credit, because I look every single week at their injury report, and it's like a Harry Potter novel. It's like you got to flip. Oh, that guy's out. That guy's out again. Oh, my God. Whoa, that guy's got an ankle issue now. Wow, that's new. Every single week, it's something new for the 49ers. Yet, the 49ers still find themselves in it. Look, the 49ers found a way to beat the Rams earlier this season. If the 49ers find a way to sweep the Rams and beat the Rams on Sunday, we need to be having a legitimate conversation about the 49ers, because it's so convenient and easy for all of us to just, we'll write off the 49ers. Yeah, it's a cute story. Yes, they're beating up on the bad teams, but they're so injured. There's no way they're going to do anything of substance this season. If they beat the Rams twice, especially after losing Fred Warner and Nick Bosa for the season, I'm sorry. I'm ready to have the 49ers conversation, because I view the Rams as a legitimate championship contender.
Here's the most important thing. I have now found on Google, I can't believe this exists, there is a spin the wheel Harry Potter character function where I can just spin a wheel and it gives me a Harry Potter character, having only seen one of the movies. I spun it and it gave me Peter Pettigrew. Can you tell me who the Peter Pettigrew is in all of this? I don't know who Peter Pettigrew is.
Is he the Half-Blood Prince?
I don't know. It gave me Hermione first, but I'd heard of Hermione, so I figured that he's not the Half-Blood Prince. I don't know. I just figured we'd see if we could get a randomizer of Harry Potter. We're going to continue to try and find this Harry Potter characters in this game. Look, the Mac Jones element of this, the 49ers element of this, is also difficult because sometimes I think we are so caught up in what we think that we fail to see what's real in front of us. So sometimes you look at the injury list, which you make such a good point. It's so epic. And then you look at the name Mac Jones and you think, okay, 49ers season is done. And then whenever we see a loss that supports that, a confirmation bias, if you will, we'll turn around and say, okay, yeah, you lost to the Texans. You're done. Your season's over. I'm guilty of it. I think most of us are guilty of it. We're waiting for the shoe to drop because of the expectation around the things that we've seen in the past. This is a bit of what we're doing even with Indianapolis. Well, it doesn't matter what Daniel Jones does because we've seen it. Seattle, it doesn't matter what Sam Darnold does because we've seen it. With the 49ers, I think when you stack the injuries with the fact that Mac Jones is the quarterback, it becomes really easy right now to say, oh, yeah, the wheels have fallen off. The season is done. But I will remind everybody, this team already beat the Rams once. If they win this game, they hold the ultimate tiebreaker edge over the Rams for the rest of this season, right? And after this game, after this Rams game for the 49ers, they have the Cardinals, the Panthers, the Browns, the Titans coming up. There's some winnable games in that stretch for them. So there's an opportunity to get a little bit of a snowball effect here for San Francisco. And I just wonder if, Caroline, we're letting our preconceived notions of who Mac Jones is or our preconceived notions of the injury list impact what we're actually seeing today. Because what we're actually seeing today, Dan Orlovsky said it on ESPN, he might be right. We might have a quarterback controversy in San Francisco. I'm not sure today, based on just what we've seen in the 49ers jersey, that we truly know that Brock is better than Mac. And I've been the one supporting Brock getting a long-term deal for years. So, to me, this is a statement of just how good they are and how much we're sleeping on them, that we're letting our opinions be sort of taken by the names instead of by what we've seen on the field.
Internally, Kyle Shanahan has done a very good job of squashing any quarterback controversy rumors.
Mm.
He has come out and said, Brock is our guy, Brock is our starter. We love Mac and everything that he's done for this team, but Brock is our starter. And good on Kyle Shanahan for squashing that and leaving zero room for doubt or any room for interpretation there. What Mac Jones is doing is exactly what you want your backup quarterback to do, to be able to come in, to be able to win you games, and to be able to keep you relevant. But Mac Jones has been doing it at a high enough level that I think we need to be talking about it. Just because Kyle Shanahan is squashing those rumors internally doesn't mean that we don't get to speculate, doesn't mean that we don't get to talk about, well, are the 49ers better off with Mac Jones? I think back to the 2021 NFL draft. Do you remember we were talking about Mac Jones to the 49ers? There were a lot of rumors and conversation about Mac Jones going to the 49ers. And ultimately, the 49ers, they ended up taking Trey Lance and then Brock Purdy with the last pick in the draft. And then Mac Jones ended up going to the Patriots. And we are all kind of surprised by that. We all kind of thought it was inevitable that Mac Jones would get drafted to the 49ers, that Mac Jones could kind of be that next system quarterback guy in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Again, I don't say that as a derogatory term. That just is what it is. I mean, Kirk Cousins was a system guy in Kyle Shanahan's offense in Washington. Jimmy Garoppolo was a system guy in Kyle Shanahan's offense in San Francisco. Brock Purdy the same way. Mac Jones the same way. He has the perfect skill set to be able to execute the 49ers offense. So I think we need to be having this conversation. I don't think that we're going to ultimately see Brock Purdy get benched yet. But I see Brock Purdy I have the injury list pulled up here. Let me just, I don't know, swipe through all these pages. Brock Purdy was limited in practice yesterday. I don't think the way that Mac Jones is playing, while Brock Purdy's not getting benched, and while it's not a soft bench, I don't think the 49ers are in a position. They're absolutely not in a position where they need to rush Brock Purdy back from injury. As long as Mac is cooking, give Brock all the time and all the leeway that he needs to get 100%.
Yeah, I love the way you said that, by the way, because soft benching has become an internet phenomenon conversation this year. But I do think there's a difference between soft benching and being patient because you can. Like you're so far ahead of schedule with all of this. And by the way, speaking of what the 49ers did right here, this is not a misspeak. According to overthecap.com, the salary cap hit this year for Mac Jones, who's on a 2-year deal. The salary cap hit for this year is $2.558 million. The salary cap hit for next year is $2.288 million. So it's just there's this moment because I think my mind was a little blown the other day talking to Charles Robinson on Inside Coverage, and we were talking about some of the teams that might need a quarterback, and he said, well, keep an eye on Mac Jones, but Mac Jones has a 2-year deal with San Francisco. San Francisco was smart enough to lock up somebody they think can be their backup, not just for 1 year, but for 2 years at such a bargain basement price. Like, this is unbelievable. When you talk about sort of what the future holds here, it gives the 49ers the opportunity to keep a backup in the building that they respect, that they think can win them a bunch of football games, obviously. And if for any reason they hit a bit of a whatever with Brock Purdy over the future, they've still got Mac Jones. Like, this is a bit of a win-win here and a smart contract with the coach that's getting the most out of a player. To have a backup quarterback making less than $3 million a year that's going out winning you games is just doing business the right way. That being said, we've credited the 49ers a lot here. I don't want to sleep on the Rams. The Rams at 6-2, it's still stuck in all of our heads that they really gave Philly the toughest run for their money last year in the playoffs. Like, the Rams are still a Super Bowl contending team that's fighting for their own bit of this pie here, right? So while I'm amazed by what the 49ers are doing, I don't want to short sell the fact that the Rams have clearly been one of the 2 or 3 best teams, I believe, in the entire NFL so far this season.
And I feel like we're not talking about it enough. We're not talking about Matthew Stafford as an MVP contender enough. I mean, he's top 10 in passing yards, top 10 in QBR. He has thrown 21 touchdown passes and just 2 interceptions, Fitz. Matthew Stafford might be playing the best football of his career. And this is coming off of an offseason that I was talking about how concerned I was about Matthew Stafford and the back issue and the age and the mileage that he had. I thought, I'm a little bit concerned about what this offense might look like with Matthew Stafford's, look, he's old and he was injured. Those are 2 bad things, going into a season. But Matthew Stafford has surpassed all of my expectations. And my expectations for this Rams offense are always going to be high. So I think there's a lot that we can learn about the 49ers in this matchup. We can learn, are the 49ers legitimate contenders? Do we need to be talking about Mac Jones as the next Daniel Jones, as the next Sam Darnold, the next Geno Smith, the next reclamation project in the NFL? Do we need to be talking about Brock Purdy potentially on the trade market? Like, those are all things that I think are on the table if the 49ers win. If the Rams win, maybe this isn't fair, but to me, if it's business as usual, the only thing that I feel like I can really genuinely learn about this Rams team, because I feel like I know this Rams team is a Super Bowl contender. I think what I can take out of a win for the Rams over the 49ers is how much closer is Matthew Stafford going to get to becoming a league MVP.
I think that's fair. I also think we glaze Kyle Shanahan, to use the term of the kids. We glaze Kyle Shanahan
Look at you,
the way we
Shenzi.
should. Thank you. The way we should be glazing Sean McVay every day. Like, the way we talk about Kyle Shanahan is the way
We
that
do
we
enough
should
glazing
be.
of Sean McVay.
No, there's not enough glazing of Sean McVay. We have watched Sean McVay just turn around and take absolute, you know what, like, he makes chicken salad a lot. Y'all know what he's making that chicken salad out of. He makes chicken salad a lot. And Kyle Shanahan's certainly doing that with Mac Jones, but the 49ers and their up and down tenure, like, some years it's great, some years it's bad. Some weeks it's great, some weeks it's bad. The consistent part of all of this isn't just Matt Stafford. It's Sean McVay, who I think, right now, if I had to put my money on it, I think Sean McVay's the second best coach in the NFL behind Andy Reid. So I just want to give Sean McVay a little bit of the love that I think he deserves. All right, we're going to keep the love coming. We got some college football to get into. Coming up next, we'll take a look at some of the coaching situations with our buddy Dan Wolken joining the show next. Part 2 of my Yahoo Sports series on the 2025 coaching carousel. Why do so many hires fail? Caught between the old model and the new era, identifying the right college football coach is harder than ever. That tweet from Dan Wolken, we tell you a lot to check out some of the stuff that's on Yahoo Sports. It's one of the most in-depth and I think best written things we've had in a long time about what's going on and why it's so complicated. Dan joins us now. I would say those nice things even if you weren't hanging out with us right now, my friend, but we appreciate your time. With what we expect to be an unprecedented offseason, let's take a look at some of these high-profile failures. How much of it can you trace back to the actual initial hiring process?
Yeah, it's always hard to go back and look and say, why did they not get this right or what did they not see? But I do think it's unusual in college sports. You're talking about giving the autonomy of a football program, which is the Power 5 level. You're talking about really a 9-figure business, and you're handing over autonomy to somebody that, you don't really have a great feel for. You kind of got to go a little bit by gut and track record, and you're trying to interpret what the results maybe at a smaller level mean when you put somebody in the SEC or the Big Ten, and mistakes are going to be made. It's just not easy, and it's always a lot more fun to go back in retrospect and say, yeah, they really screwed up. But hey, as somebody told me, you got these ADs, you've got coaches, they get 30 minutes or an hour on a Zoom, and they're supposed to all of a sudden, be able to figure out whether they can work together. And business doesn't always work that way. Life doesn't always work that way. So there's a little bit art, a little bit science in hiring a coach. And I was just trying to maybe figure out a little bit of where people go wrong in that process.
Now, I don't want to give it all away because everybody needs to go to sports.yahoo.com to read it. But one thing that you do touch on is that the traditional hierarchy of quality of jobs has changed. I mean, the fact that we're talking about if Ole Miss is actually a better job than Florida is something that seemed inconceivable 10 years ago, even less. So is that all NIL, or what other factors go into what makes a quality job in college football?
Well, a lot of it is NIL or revenue sharing because it emphasizes what your strategy is as an athletic department and as a football program, and how you're going to raise that money, how you're going to allocate it in recruiting. Those are the ingredients of building a really good team. And you look at a school like Ole Miss, and they've got their stuff together right now. They're extremely competent from top to bottom, and it's shown up in how they've been able to support and supplement what Lane Kiffin wants to do. And Ole Miss has been in the playoff hunt the last 2 years in this 12-team playoff era. Florida hasn't been, LSU hasn't been. So they're doing something right at Ole Miss that is just beyond sort of what Lane is doing on the sidelines. And yeah, back in the day, clearly, Florida and Auburn and LSU, they were in just a different tier. But now everything's a little bit more even, and the goal for programs is to get in the college football playoff. That's got to be sort of that year in, year out standard, is whether you're in that playoff mix. And we've seen a wide variety of programs can get in that playoff mix if they're run well, and that brings everybody a little closer to the middle. And then again, in recruiting, it always used to be about proximity to talent. And that's why LSU and Florida State and a lot of those schools close to the big talent centers were always successful. But now you can't do that. You have to allocate resources. You got to pay the players. There's a payroll. There's essentially a salary cap. So the players are going to be more spread out. And again, that just makes everybody in terms of their program capability and possibility a lot closer to the middle.
It's interesting, Dan. I'll admit loudly when I'm wrong. I genuinely believed in the modern landscape because of the expansion of the college football playoff and more teams being able to qualify for the playoffs that it would stop some of the coaching turnover. Because the thought is now, hey, you don't get fired just for losing a national championship as long as you make the playoffs. Like I thought it would create more stability. It's done the exact opposite. So I was totally wrong on that. Brent Key, I want to ask you about because he had some strong statements about not going anywhere, going to continue building at Georgia Tech. I don't know how much we make of any strong statements from any coaches because we've certainly been lied to. But how much of a factor is the path to the playoffs to some of these coaches considering staying or going to different places? Like you can make the argument that you go to a bigger school, it actually gets tougher to get into the college football playoff.
Yeah, look, I know Georgia Tech has been very aggressive with Brent Key to try to make sure that nobody poaches him, right? And so that's obviously going to include a conversation about his salary and his contract, obviously. But Georgia Tech's not going to be able to pay as much money as a Penn State or an Auburn just because of the ACC. They don't get that kind of revenue. Georgia Tech's a little bit smaller of a program, okay? Fine. But what they're selling him is, look at this holistically, okay? You're at your alma mater. You're at a place where you fit, where you have demonstrated that you know how to be successful here. And look, we're sitting here in November, and you are very much in the playoff mix. And if you win your final 3 regular season games, and again, you got to play Pitt, not going to be easy. You got to play Georgia, certainly a very tough game. But if Georgia Tech goes 11-1, I think they're probably going to be a playoff team. And that's what they're telling Brent Key. Look, why go to the SEC? Why go to the Big Ten? It's you got to duke it out with all those schools. And honestly, like, you've got a better shot of making the playoff on a regular basis here because it's maybe not quite as tough of a path. And I do think coaches are sort of looking at that and considering that. And I think that's one factor why you may not have the same kind of movement that we've had in the past from sort of those mid-tier power conference schools to the very, very top.
But it's some of these mid-season extensions and raises that now find some places in a really sticky situation. I look at Mike Norvell at Florida State. He got that save and pay bump a couple of years ago, and now Florida State rather finds themselves in a sticky financial situation. Looking at some of these buyouts, I mean, $50 million for James Franklin, $53 million for Brian Kelly. The $15.4 million buyout for Hugh Freeze at Auburn felt like chump change compared to some of these other buyouts. I heard the governor of Louisiana and the new athletic director at LSU talking about incentive-based contracts. Look, if you make the college football playoff, you'll make $20 million. If you go 6-6, you'll make $4 million. Do you think that kind of changing of structure of contracts might be the future of college football to avoid some of these tens of millions of dollars of buyouts?
Certainly could see some changeover in the way things are structured. I thought Nebraska did probably a really good job in extending Matt Rule, where they did not have to increase his base pay, his salary, which he's already making a lot of money, granted, okay? But they gave him extra years. They didn't give him a bump in pay, but they gave him incentive structures where his salary will go up by $1 million if he makes the college football playoff, which for Nebraska, doing so would pay for itself and then some. So that's what I think some schools are looking at as a potential model. Look, it's going to be very, very hard to convince a coach, and especially the agents, guys like Jimmy Sexton, who've got a lot of these clients who kind of control the market, especially in the SEC, to say, hey, we're only going to give your guy a 3-year contract. I think that's going to be really hard to sell at this point, unless that just sort of almost becomes a collusion among schools to drive the market that way. But collusion only works if everybody's bought in, right? So I'm not sure that's a really simple process. But I would be fascinated if a school just said, hey, look, we're going to offer you $20 million, but we're only going to give you a 3-year deal. And then we're going to renegotiate, maybe a little bit more like the NBA does. I don't know if that's feasible, but I'd be fascinated to see what people would think of that in the industry, because I do think there's space for it when you just look at how itchy schools get. And honestly, like back when these long 7, 8, 10-year extensions originally started, it was supposed to be all about recruiting. You needed to assure recruits that the coach was going to be there for the whole length of their college career. Nobody cares about that anymore because all these kids are going in the transfer portal. Nobody is looking 4 and 5 years down the road. They're looking at 2 and 3 years.
Is there logic in this cycle then to look around and say, man, I'm not going to fire my coach because there's too many openings, not enough qualified candidates, and we won't separate as a job?
We already saw Wisconsin do that. Chris McIntosh, the athletic director, yesterday came out and publicly said, we are keeping Luke Fickell. We're going to double down and invest more into the roster. Now, look, certainly doesn't make anybody happy in Wisconsin. A lot of the fans there want him gone. And I'm not sure that's going to fix the issue, okay, because they're really bad. And I'm not sure how much more with this staff and sort of the lack of confidence in it. I don't know if there's much more to wring out of it, okay? But they're just sort of kicking the can down the road for 1 year, hoping that maybe the conditions will be a little more favorable, bring that buyout down by 1 year of his salary. And so then you can look at it in 12 months and say, okay, if it didn't work out, we did everything we could do. Now we can make the decision, and maybe we'll be in a better place from a marketplace standpoint where we're not competing with 6 or 7 or even 8 other schools higher on the totem pole than Wisconsin. And whether you agree or disagree, that's the strategy. And I think a lot of schools would like to not be in this coaching market if they could avoid it.
Just like the NFL, college football is a copycat league. That whichever team is having success, okay, let's try and recreate that. And we see that in coaching hires. For a long time, it was, okay, who's that next young up-and-coming coordinator? We'll hire that guy as our head coach. And in 2021, it was poaching. It was taking Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma, Brian Kelly from Notre Dame. What do you see as the trendy style of coaching hire in 2025?
Well, I definitely think people are looking more for a CEO type, a culture setter, somebody who is going to have their fingers in fundraising for sure. I mean, that's necessary part of the job right now. Somebody who is going to be out there as the front facing voice and not be shy about doing a lot of media, generating a lot of attention. But you also have to delegate, and you have to hire really good assistant coaches. And just to go back to Brent Key as an example, I think he's a great model for what a lot of people are looking for. He was not an offensive coordinator ever. He never called a play, and he's not involved at Georgia Tech in the day-to-day with their offensive coordinator, their defensive coordinator. He's not in the muck looking at scheme and strategy. He is the CEO. He is the guy who's responsible for building the roster, for building toughness, for building culture, for keeping everybody organized. And he's going to delegate a lot of the stuff to his assistant coaches. And he is the CEO. It's that to me is the model, especially for a lot of these schools now, as opposed to 5 years ago, where everyone's looking for, kind of the next offensive system. And so it's the offensive coordinator who scored 40 points a game. Not saying you cannot be that and be a great head coach, but it's the guys like Dan Lanning, and they're more adjustable and adaptable. They understand this idea of a salary cap and flexibility on the roster and the transfer portal, putting it all together. That's the secret sauce now, not the head coach who's the guru type on offense. That model I think is over.
Before we get you out of here, Memphis-Tulane face-off tonight. According to reports, Ryan Silverfield, the head coach of Memphis, is going to be the Arkansas head coach. But we're hearing a lot now for John Sumrall, the Tulane coach. It feels like everybody's talking about him as a program savior. Why?
Yeah, okay. So let's be real here about Ryan Silverfield. He is certainly a candidate at Arkansas. I know Arkansas is looking at him. I think there's a few steps to go here before I would say he's got the job or he's going to be the next Arkansas coach. Long way to go here. But I know he's in that group of like AAC mid-major coaches that Arkansas is kind of focused on right now from everything I've heard. Sumrall, a lot of talk with him about Auburn. He's from Alabama, Huntsville. He coached at Troy, so he's familiar with that state. Look, Sumrall, he's done a good job. I think he's a good coach. He's got a lot of good attributes. Again, I think from that CEO style leadership, he embodies that. He's got a lot of good qualities. I have honestly been a little disappointed with the way Tulane has played this year. They're 10th or 11th in the country in penalties. That is concerning to me. I am raising a red flag over that, just in terms of the coaching side of it, because I don't want a guy who's coaching an undisciplined team. Okay, they got beat really badly last week on the road at UTSA. Again, we'll see what they do tonight at Memphis. They can certainly bounce back. They're good enough to do that. I just have not been that impressed overall with Tulane this year. I think Sumrall has kind of looked a little bit like he's more interested in doing a lot of the media and image promotion than coaching the team. Is that unfair? Yeah, I'm sure the guy's working hard, but there's a puff piece profile out about him every single week in the media these days. Like, what's going on there? Not a good look when you get beat by 20-something points at UTSA.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you don't have to be great. You just have to have a great publicist. Dan, we appreciate you, my friend. Follow him on Twitter at Dan Wolken. I stole that from somebody else in life. But
you can be my publicist, Jason.
Look, I'm in. I'm taking it. I'm taking the gig. But there we go. Side hustle. There we go. Dan, we appreciate you. Great article, man. Thanks for the time this morning. Really appreciate you coming on with us.
Thanks.
All right, coming up next, we have updates on LeBron. The Lakers fans are going to be excited. We'll tell you about it next. Dave McMiniman tells us from the Lakers, LeBron James has progressed to contact basketball activity and will be reevaluated by team physicians in approximately 1 to 2 weeks. Any further updates will be provided at that time. LeBron inching closer to his return with the LA Lakers, but that's got Barkley worried about it. Charles is out there saying he's worried that when he returns, he won't look like the LeBron that we've come to know. Barkley's out here already worried about it. Quote, I hope he leaves sooner than later because I hate to see great players out there struggling. Man, I don't know, Caroline. This is the most frustrating thing about LeBron James to me. Like the LeBron James legacy conversation, the LeBron James where is he on the Mount Rushmore conversation, the LeBron James greatness conversation is the basketball equivalent of my dad can beat up your dad. We never actually get to see any of it come to fruition. It's just a bunch of people yelling. They all think they're right, and nobody ever changes their mind. If LeBron comes out and he plays like absolute ass for the entire season, he's just an abomination of a basketball player that can barely play any minutes, it won't change my opinion on how great he's been. And if he comes out and he's absolutely spectacular, it won't change a hater's opinion on how great he's always been. Like, LeBron is stuck because no matter what he does, my guy could just walk down the street and somebody wants to judge the way he's going to walk at this point. I don't understand. I don't know why people have to be so worked up about LeBron at this point.
I mean, everyone's going to be worked up about LeBron. Everyone has been worked up about LeBron. That's a given. Death taxes and somebody having a strong feeling about LeBron James. LeBron James's legacy is cemented. It has been cemented. His legacy has been cemented as one of, if not the greatest to ever play the game of basketball. Point blank, period. That's done. LeBron James has achieved enough in his career, obviously, to be in that conversation. I do see where Charles is coming from, though. Not from a perspective of damaging his legacy, but we've seen that with some athletes later in their careers. I think about Tiger Woods. It was hard watching Tiger struggle to walk on the course when we are so used to seeing Tiger dominate the game of golf. You know, I love the Batman movies, especially the Dark Knight trilogy. And there's one quote from The Dark Knight that I think about all the time and that I quote constantly, and that is, never live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I think it is so wise and so applicable in so many walks of life. And I think about that for some athletes that stick around as long as they possibly can, and it is rough to watch them late in their careers. Like, don't stick around long enough to see yourself become the problem. I don't think that we're there with LeBron James. I really don't, because we haven't seen LeBron James slow down. I mean, last season, LeBron didn't look like he was 40 years old. LeBron was keeping up with the young guns. So I don't think that we're there with LeBron James, but I don't think it's a crazy thing to bring up of, look, what if LeBron doesn't look like Superman? Like, how will we talk about LeBron James in the right now? But in the long term and in the history books, look, LeBron James is cemented as one of the greatest to ever do it.
Yeah, and here's the thing. What you just said, which is so factual, is what drives so many people crazy. And to me, it's the same thing I say all the time. LeBron James is one of the best players of all time. And to some, he's the best. Mm-hmm. He might be the best. Doesn't really matter if he's the best. Like, at the end of the day, nobody wants to hear this, but, like, at the end of the day, it doesn't change my Friday if you think LeBron is better or worse than Michael Jordan. It just doesn't. It doesn't change the Lakers' fortunes this year if you think LeBron is better or worse than Michael Jordan. It doesn't change what you're going to think about LeBron if you hate the way he made the decision or you hate the way he's played his career. And it doesn't change the way you feel about LeBron if he goes out and does virtually anything, because people have made up their minds. And I'm with you. I'm really torn on this because, as I've told you before, I don't want to see fat Axl Rose. Personally, I don't want to watch Axl Rose now run around on stage and go into a microphone over and over and over again in leather pants that didn't fit. Like, I don't want to see that. I want Axl Rose, in my mind, to be Welcome to the Jungle in the late 80s. That's my version of Axl. But if Axl can still fill an arena, if he can still fill stadiums as Guns N' Roses do, who am I to tell him not to? Like, if LeBron wants to go out there and play, if LeBron wants to be what Michael was at the end of his career, which I, for years, joked was Fat Michael with the Wizards, like, if you want to just you just can't do what you did, but you love playing, think of it as, like, LeBron James has been defined by basketball since he was, as they say, knee-high to a grasshopper, right? Like, his entire life has been defined by the sport of basketball. You know when he should quit playing? When he feels like it. And you know who should tell him not to? Nobody. If somebody wants to like, the Lakers don't have to let him play there, but if he decides, hey, I just want to keep playing. I don't care where it is. And he ends up playing for 18 different teams. Like, we forget all of the teams that Shaq played for at the end of his career. It just was one after the other after the other. But if that's all you've known your entire life, like, I think it's what we sometimes as a society minimize is how difficult it is for somebody that is dedicated every second of their life and then wakes up one day and realizes, I don't do that anymore. Like, I don't have a purpose today. LeBron's purpose for many years has been basketball and business. Now, maybe he decides he wants to walk away. But if he wants to wait too long to make that decision, good on him. I don't have to watch it. If Charles doesn't like it, Charles doesn't have to watch it. But, just like nobody, Charles at some point is going to probably be too old to sit at the desk. Said respectively, Chuck. We love you. But is it up to us to turn around to Chuck and say, man, you've lost your fastball. You need to get off the desk. No, do it until you don't want to do it anymore. You're a legend. You've earned that right. I think the important part of this for LeBron is what's it mean for this year and what's it mean for this Lakers team? Because what's interesting to me is that LeBron has an opportunity for once to come into a team where he doesn't have to be Batman. He doesn't have to be Christopher Nolan Batman. He doesn't have to be Michael Keaton Batman. He doesn't have to be any version of Batman. He can just come in and be one of the guys on the team. I know that we want to make everything about LeBron, but this year's Lakers championship hopes, to me, hinge far more on the guy on the left you see there, far on my left. The guy that you see right there, Luka Doncic, is far more important. The what we've seen so far early this year from Austin Reeves, far more important. But if LeBron can go in and just be a piece of a championship for somebody that just loves the game, imagine how that would feel. And the unfortunate part about society is that if he's just a piece of a championship, there are going to be people that say, oh, you can't even give him credit for that ring. He didn't win it. Luka did. Like, we're so busy trying to find reasons to tear down LeBron. And to me, if LeBron can come back in 2 weeks and be the best version of LeBron, I just want to appreciate that I'm getting to watch one of the greatest to ever do it. I'll always keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, if you are going to be the person that says it's time for LeBron James to step away, that's on you. We're not at that point. And I would never tell LeBron James, okay, it's time to hang it up. Okay, pop, pop. We're not there yet. I don't think I'll ever get to that point. But the question is LeBron James okay being a passenger more than he is the conductor? Is LeBron James okay with that? Because everyone's going to have an opinion about LeBron, whether he is the conductor or a passenger, whether he wears blue or green. People are going to have an opinion about it. But my question for LeBron, are you okay being Robin, or maybe even secondary Robin? Because this is not your team anymore. This is not your franchise anymore. It is Luka Doncic's team and Luka Doncic's franchise. So are you, LeBron James, okay with that? Are you okay with being Peyton Manning winning a Super Bowl in the Broncos when it was more about the defense than it was about Peyton Manning? And if LeBron is okay with that, then by all means, if they win a championship, if LeBron and Luka and Austin Reeves win a championship with the Lakers, like, I can live with that not being LeBron's Lakers and LeBron's championship. Can LeBron live with that?
Do you think at his core, Peyton Manning gives a damn what any of us think about how he won that ring? You know what I mean? Like,
no,
when he looks
Peyton
back
Manning
at his
and LeBron
rings,
are not cut from the same cloth. LeBron cares about what people think about him.
That's fair. That's fair. And look, a ring is like, we don't often sit back and say, oh, we can't give Robert Horry credit for all of the rings he has because he wasn't the guy on those teams. Like, it's a weird dynamic. And you're right. Maybe LeBron cares more than I want him to care. Maybe that's just me displacing that on it, because, like, at the end of the day, you're one of the greatest that ever did it, and you have a shot at another ring. You have a shot at more jewelry. Like, I just want to see LeBron. I just want to see LeBron. Like, as a basketball fan, that's it. Like, I just want to see LeBron, because the hill I die on constantly, Caroline, is that in 30 years, all the people right now that are busy saying something against LeBron are the very same people that will sit on their porch and say, oh, this kid you're talking about today is not here. I watched LeBron play. Like, this is what we're going to do. At some point, we're going to flip the narrative. So why not flip it now while we're still watching him play?
We do that all the time. We talk about that with Tom Brady. Like, so many people were tired of Tom Brady. So many people were ready to see Tom Brady go. No, I think we think back on the Tom Brady years with a lot of sense of nostalgia. Same thing with Nick Saban at Alabama. I was the first person saying, thank you, get this man out of college football because he beats my team every single year. Now I feel very nostalgic about those Nick Saban years, that we look back on that era of college football very, very lovingly and very glowingly. We will do that with LeBron James. We will do that with anyone who has ever been the greatest at what they do. I think we just all have to understand that this version of LeBron and this version of the Lakers looks different and will be different than former iterations of LeBron James and his teams. And that's okay.
It's a little like the Keanu Reeves thing where he kept saying that people want to tell me, I'm paraphrasing here, people want to tell me 1 + 1 = 3. I'm too tired to argue with them anymore. That's how I am with LeBron. If you want to tell me that it's not enough, tired of arguing with you. All right, we're going to give you Monday headlines coming up next. What we expect over the weekend that you can read in print, including some hot takes on Clemson. We'll do it next. Extra, read all about it. Breaking news for Monday. That's right, we're going to get into you today on a Friday. It's time for Monday headlines. Some of the headlines you can expect from the course of the weekend. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz, Yahoo Sports Daily. All right, Caroline, I will give you the first one. You ready for the first? I'll give you the headline, and then we'll explain
I'm ready for
this one. Going for it. All right, the headline is going to be about Florida State Clemson. We'll pull the paper up, see what it looks like. The headline reads, Dabo gets the boot. How do we like this? Look,
an orange boot at that.
I know, an orange boot. That's a really well done. Like it's like a rain boot. I don't know, but either way, and it's just kicking Dabo right there in the tush. But this is all about what I expect from this game. Florida State's going to beat Clemson, and Florida State beating Clemson is going to be jarring and shocking because Mike Norvell is constantly on the hot seat right now. We have no idea if Norvell is going to keep his job, and then you've got the weekly. We're going to get this thing fixed. I don't know. I think this is finally that the back is broken. This is where everybody will turn around, just like we saw at LSU a few weeks ago, that it just takes that one key moment where boosters turn around and say, I'm out. I wonder if this is it when Florida State just absolutely reams Clemson. I don't think this is going to be a close game. The wheels have fallen off this year. I want to be clear. I think Dabo is a great coach, and I think Clemson has the necessary pieces to be a good program moving forward. I just think the marriage right now is too fractured, and an epic loss is going to send everybody spiraling. What say you?
I can't get on board with this because of the buyout. I mean, Dabo has a $60 million buyout with no offsets. whoever drafted that up in the Clemson side of things deserves to be laughed at and to have tomatoes thrown at them. Why would you draft up a contract with no offset? So that means that if Dabo gets fired, and even if he gets another job, whether that's a head coach at a Power 4 school or whether he's coaching Little League softball, he gets all of that money guaranteed from Clemson. A lot of other contracts will have offsets. So, okay, if you go get another job somewhere else, the money that you're making there will, subtract from the money that you'll get from us. Dabo has none of that. And let's keep in mind, too, the ACC TV money is awfully different than SEC and Big Ten money. And so, the SEC, like LSU and Florida and Auburn, the Big Ten, like Penn State, those massive buyouts that they are now paying for their fired head coaches, some of that can come from the TV revenue that Clemson is not getting from the ACC TV's deal. So I can't get on board with this just because I think it's too much for Clemson to swallow. And I think that they have had enough success under Dabo to say, like, okay, we can justify bringing him back for another year and not paying this massive buyout.
Okay,
but this game is a lot less intriguing than I think we all thought it was going to be. Now it's like, okay, which head coach is going to get fired first versus which team is going to the ACC championship game, which it felt like that was going to be the conversation about this game early in the season.
If we're being honest about where Clemson has gotten to as a program, Clemson has they've gone from being, what did Clemson do, to, oh yeah, I'm going to open up an app and I'm going to search for the ACC scores and then I'm going to look to see where Clemson was. Like, that's how far this thing has fallen. And I'm with you. I think the far more reasonable expectation is that next year becomes a prove-it year for Dabo and they figure it out from there. But that being said, you never know. Right now in the current climate, when we're watching everybody try and jockey for different jobs, I just wonder if there's a good opportunity here for Clemson to find their guy and also for Dabo maybe to find his new landing spots. All right. I gave you a headline. You give me a headline. I'll see if I'm buying your newspaper. What do you got?
Okay, so when you wake up on Monday morning, you pour your cup of coffee, you open up your newspaper, and the headline will read,
News
Don
updates.
Mattingly heading to the New York Yankees. Boone bounced for Donnie Baseball. So Don Mattingly, we learned yesterday, of course, manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, would be stepping away from the Blue Jays, but would not retire, which I thought that's crazy. I mean, you went to 11 innings in Game 7 of the World Series. Why would you step away from that team if you weren't retiring? So here's my theory. The Yankees see that Don Mattingly steps away. They say, Aaron Boone, yeah, you're great and all, but see ya, don't let the door hit you on the way out. And then Don Mattingly, after spending his entire career as a player, and he was with the Yankees for over a decade, he was a 6-time All-Star and an MVP, AL MVP with the Yankees. He comes back home, and he is the new manager of the New York Yankees. And the prophecy completes itself. What do we think, Fitzy? Don Mattingly to the New York Yankees.
Look, I love everything about this because your math works out perfectly in my head, right? Like, I think one of the most staggering things, when I first heard that he'd stepped away as a bench coach in Toronto, my thought was, okay, you just lost the World Series in Game 7. The way you lost it, maybe you just need to take a second to clear your head. It all makes sense. The fact that within hours of him stepping away, we were hearing from his agent and everybody around him that everybody loves everybody. It's very amicable, but he definitely wants to keep working. So he's telling you there he doesn't want to be a bench guy. He wants to be the guy. And where would he make more sense to be the guy right now than with the Yankees? Like just the opportunity of the homecoming element of this story. And for Yankees fans that have just frankly hated their managerial situation for a minute, this feels like the ultimate comeback, quickly relate to this locker room. You know what it's like to be a Yankee, all the blah, blah, blahs we say with this. I feel like this actually makes a lot of sense. And, I mean, he was a manager for 12 years at the Bigs, right? So it's not like he's not fully and a manager of the Dodgers. So it's also not like he's not used to big brand, big city, big pressure, big expectations. Coming off of that World Series, I actually kind of love this, Caroline. I think you've done the math in a really, really good way that puts a star back with the franchise. And, man, we'd be doing like homecoming parade sort of activity for this. It would make the Yankees a huge story even without having done a single thing.
And also, Don Mattingly, how old is he? 64 years old. I don't know how much longer he has in baseball. Like, I don't know what level of I want to be doing this for the rest of my life Don Mattingly feels. I mean, 64 years old. At some point, like, you have all the money in the world, you have all the success and all the respect in the world. How much more do you have left to prove, and how much longer do you want to be doing this? I do feel like there's probably a sense in the Bronx of, look, this is probably his next stop is probably his last stop. How poetic would it be for Don Mattingly to end his career as a manager and as a coach in the exact same place where he started as a player? I mean, it gives me chills. How can you not be romantic about baseball? And I don't know how many stops Don Mattingly has left. So this is the opportunity for the Yankees to, no pun intended, take a swing at a guy that's going to galvanize the entire fan base. Because Aaron Boone is not galvanizing the fan base. If anything, he is fracturing the fan base. If anything, Yankees fans, even with as much success as the Yankees have had, I mean, they were in the World Series last season. They found themselves right back in the postseason this year. I think Yankees fans are over Aaron Boone. They're over it. They're over the analytics. They're over him, smooching the GM's behind every chance he gets. Yankees fans are over Aaron Boone. They want a fresh start. They want a fresh perspective. And what better fresh perspective than Donnie Baseball himself?
Smooching the GM's behind is that's an epic band title, like an album title. Smooching the GM's behind. I love this. I just like the way that you say, you the way you say controversial things, like smooching the GM's behind. Even if you were saying that directly to Aaron Boone, he'd smile. Aaron Boone would be like, you know what? That's really well. That's well said by you. Smooching the GM's behind. That's it. That's like it's just hear it. Okay, let me give you my next headline. I'm going to give you a headline. We'll get back to the NFL for my headline. Let's pull it up here and see if you agree with me on this one. Extra, read all about it.
News updates.
We've got Rico Dowdle, 5 pumps, 3 tutties. All right, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, Rico Dowdle went out there, went full Key and Peele with this celebration, which got him fined by the NFL. He celebrated in the end zone, and then there's an old Key and Peele skit where there's some pumping that goes on, and there's a question of how many pumps you're allowed to do before you get flagged. Well, it turns out he did 2 pumps. It got him fined. So here's my math. 3 touchdowns. The first touchdown gets 1 pump, right? Then he gets the second touchdown. Now he's feeling a little froggy. He 2 pumps it just to see, are the refs going to feel like that's the right thing to do? And then the third touchdown, he does 3 pumps because he's feeling froggy. That actually gets us to 6. I'm bad at math. I'm still going 5. Keegan-Michael Key out there saying 2 pumps, you got robbed. You can't find somebody for 2 pumps. I want to give Rico Dowdle some credit, by the way. He went out and he said he was going to start a GoFundMe to pay the fines. Obviously, he wasn't actually going to GoFundMe to pay the fines. He then mentioned that the GoFundMe was that all of the money used for that was going to then turn around and be used for charity. So he said, starting a GoFundMe, they got me. But as you can see there, that charitable donation, over $14,000 to the community. So obviously, Rico takes a funny thing and makes it a great thing. $14,491 as of that tweet. That number is still going up as he uses that for, I believe, foster homes in Carolina. So great work by Rico Dowdle using this pump to make money. But also, I'm in on the Rico Dowdle. Like, I'm in on the Reek Freak train. We're all in on it on this show. I think Rico has a big game.
100%.
Give me them 5 pumps. 5 pumps.
Good on Rico Dowdle. Use your pumps for good and not for evil. That's exactly what he's doing. Now, look, I love this. The old 5 and 3. We talk about it. The legend of the old 5 and 3, the 5 pump 3 tutty game. We'll be talking about this for years. It'll be in the storybooks. I love this. I'm 100% on board for it. But I do have to ask, Rico Dowdle got fined for 2 pumps. Do you get fined per pump? Like, what if he pumped 3 times? Like, would he have to pay even more of a fine? Because if you're getting fined per pump, then of course I get it. Keep it at 2. But if you're just getting fined for pumping, just go all in. Don't pump 2 times. Pump 10. Pump 15. Go all in on the pumps. If you're going to pay a fine, make it worth it. What does Roger Goodell have to say about pumps?
I think Rico should score the touchdown, and then he should run up to the official, and he should just do this, and he should look at the official and go, one little pump, one little pump. Just see what happens.
One more.
Just pump it by the official, and then just looks to see if he grabs the flag. And then it's like, the next time maybe he comes up and he's like, whoop, whoop, whoop. And then if he gets that second one.
Yeah, is it a 1 pump per game or 1 pump per celebration?
And look, if he gets flagged after the second pump, then you go pumptastic, right there. Like if you see the ref throw the pump, then you get your third, fourth, fifth, maybe even sixth, seventh, eighth in there. You just go pump crazy. That's the way we go. Now that we've made everybody uncomfortable with the concept of just pumping the officials, you want to go ahead and give us your next Monday morning? Okay.
Yes, I do. On Monday, we will learn that Dan Quinn gets fired from his position as head coach of the Washington Commanders. The Commanders can Dan. That is so good. So good. So we obviously we saw Jaden Daniels on national TV and the gruesome, gross elbow injury that he suffered. Now, a little bit of breaking news. Ian Rappaport did report that Jaden Daniels' MRI and medical opinions revealed positive news. His dislocated left elbow is not as serious as originally anticipated. There was no ligament damage and he won't need surgery. So we all can breathe a sigh of relief. Everybody in Commander Town can breathe a sigh of relief that Jaden Daniels will not need surgery on what looked like just an absolutely gross and disgusting injury, and also an unnecessary injury. It happened late in the fourth quarter. The Commanders were getting totally and completely obliterated. So why is Jaden Daniels out there? An already injury-prone quarterback, a guy who carries your team, a guy that when Jaden Daniels is out there, you have a chance to win any game on your schedule. When he's not, you don't. So what is Dan Quinn doing, leaving Jaden Daniels out there late in the fourth quarter in a game that is already lost? That's reason number one why I think the Commanders are going to can Dan. Number two, the Commanders play the Lions this weekend at home. The Commanders are going to get absolutely clapped by the Lions. So leaving Jaden Daniels out there, leaving him vulnerable in a game that was already lost, and then getting obliterated by the Lions, that'll be enough for Dan Quinn to lose his job as the head coach of the Washington Commanders. Are you buying what I'm selling?
No, I think you're listening too much college football. Like these college football coaches out here getting willy-nilly fired. I think the thing we have to remember, or two things can be true at once here, right? The Commanders have gone off the rails this year. It is not good. It's far worse. I think most of us expected a step back. We didn't expect this, and the season looks like it could just be completely lost. This could end up being very reminiscent of Joe Burrow early in his career when he was lost to injury for so much that they got a high draft pick that helped them get Jamar Chase. So maybe if you're a Commanders fan, your hope is that without your starting quarterback, what it helps you do is accumulate more talent because the roster needs more talent. But I think we have to remember where the Commanders were before Dan Quinn, and we have to remember new ownership came in that situation. And the one thing new ownership wants to show is stability through everything. Things turned around so quickly that for the first time in years, we spent all of last year just talking about Washington for the football on the field instead of everything going on off the field. I think there's going to be some continuity within the organization. I would argue that even with the rails going off this year, and even if next year is bad, we are still that far away from anyone asking Dan Quinn questions simply because of the way that the organization was run for a generation before we got to where we are. We'll keep breaking it down. A bunch of NFL game previews to get to. It's time for some can't wait. We'll figure out the best and worst matchups in the way only this show can. Will Baker be cooking? We'll figure it out next. According to Ian Rappaport, sources, Commanders quarterback Jaden Daniels' MRI and medical opinions reveal positive news as his dislocated left elbow is not as serious as an originally anticipated. No ligament damage. He won't need surgery. Daniels will not be immediately placed on injured reserve. What does that mean? Caroline Fenton, I would argue that we need to pay close attention to the verbiage used at the end of that statement. He will not immediately be placed on injured reserve. We knew that should this require surgery, his season was done. We still don't really know that his season isn't done. We just know that for now he's not being put on injury reserve. I think that's a small nuance. Rapp doesn't put things out accidentally, so his wording matters to me when he says for now in that situation. So still a long way to go before we know if Jaden Daniels is going to be able to be back on the field for Washington this year. And by the time we know the answer to that, it's possible their season is already gone so far south that it's not worth putting him back out there for more risk. But at least right now, if you're Washington, you have hope that if you can start to turn things around, maybe there's a spot where you can bring your quarterback back.
It's the best of a bad situation. I'm glad to hear that for Jaden Daniels' sake, that it's not as bad as it looked, because, gosh, it did look really bad. And I think that's great for the Washington Commanders' sake. It just feels like such an unnecessary situation, Fitz, because there was no need for Jaden Daniels to even be out there in that position in the first place. Midway through the fourth quarter, you're down several scores. There was no way that the Commanders were going to be able to come back in that football team. So I think that logic of what's the point of even putting him out there again and risking further injury is a smart one, because we know Jaden Daniels already is injury prone. He's suffered several injury setbacks this season. His style of play leaves him very vulnerable to big hits. And look, Jaden Daniels isn't the biggest guy out there, and that's what makes him so good. He's so slippery. He's able to find teeny tiny little holes in the run game, but that does leave him incredibly vulnerable to big time injuries. So I don't think it's the worst idea to consider shutting Jaden Daniels down for the season, cutting your losses, and looking ahead to next year. But I do love to hear that he won't have to undergo surgery. That's at least the best news that we could possibly hear out of a bad situation.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the biggest games of the weekend, the way only this show can. It is time for Can't Wait, where we bring Bart Scott begrudgingly sort of into the like, Bart is a part of this because you all know Bart yelling can't wait. So we're going to break down a game and we're going to figure out exactly what it is. If we tell you it's a can't wait, it's a Bart, it's a this. Can't wait.
Can't wait.
What's the opposite of a Bart? Well, the opposite of a Bart is a fart, which would be never. It hits
I
the
never
same
get
every week.
used to it.
No,
it's so gross every time.
There's some skill to it. All right, first game on the Bart or fart scale. Cardinals, Seahawks. What do you got for me? Is it a Bart or a fart, Caroline?
I love this division. I've become obsessed with the NFC West, but unfortunately this one, that's a fart. This game is in Seattle, one of, I think, the most difficult places to play in the National Football League. It is loud. And look, the Cardinals win, 27-17 win over the Cowboys. That's great and all. That's great. But they also lost 5 straight games, including a loss to the worst team, I think, in the National Football League, and the Tennessee Titans. How do you lose to the Titans? The Cardinals found a way to do that. Now, I do think they look better with Jacoby Brissett under center than they did with Kyler Murray, but overall, the Seahawks, to me, are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. The Cardinals are a legitimate top 5 pick contender. I think the Cardinals are just way outmatched in this Seahawks game. It's a fun story with the NFC West, but overall, this game, it's going to be a fart. The Seahawks are going to roll.
Oh, see, here's the thing. The largest defeat this year for Arizona so far in their 5 losses is 4 points. They've lost 3 of those 5 games on the last play of the game. Like, that's how weird this season. They are 3 plays away from being 6-2 right now. I think we're sleeping on the Cardinals. Jacoby Brissett better than Kyler Murray at this point. They've got a better quarterback situation. This is really, to me, this game's a Bart. That's where can't wait. This game's a
Can't
Bart.
wait.
Thank you. There we go. This game's a Bart, and it's a Bart because, frankly, there's so much on both sides of it. Like, I want to believe Seattle is a Super Bowl team, but I'm also not convinced that the Cardinals are left for dead quite yet. They're not dead yet. I think there's an element here where the Cardinals could be a second half surprise, especially if they continue to get better play from Jacoby Brissett and if they can just normalize some of the wild wins or wild losses, I should say. So I give it a Bart. What about Jets, Browns? Jets, Browns, Bart or a fart? What do you got, Caroline?
I don't think that fart even really does this justice because calling this game a fart, I think is, oh God, it's like rude to say that about the other games that we've called farts. Like this isn't just a fart. This is a shart. Like this is worse than a fart. This is, oh my God. Okay, that's enough. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. Browns Jets is like what we saw last night, the kind of game that sets the game of football back, that sets the NFL back decades. Like this is so disgusting. It is unfortunate, frankly, Fitz, that one of these teams has to win because neither of these teams deserve to win football games.
Usually, we just had a graphic up from the Cleveland Browns that told you where you could watch or listen to the football game. Usually, I think that's such a help. It's a help, right? This time, I think it's a warning. I think the Browns put it out like, hey, just a warning. Unfortunately, this game is going to be on the radio in Cleveland, and it's going to be on TV on CBS. Like, that is telling you, hey, these are the places to avoid if you don't want to have to watch this. Like, this game.
It's not even just a warning, Fitz. It's a threat. Like, it's a threat.
It's.
Like,
I mean, I feel bad for the broadcast
crew
crew on it. I feel bad for the people in the stadium. It's the ultimate fart. This is one of the worst games of the year. It's not going to get any better. And unfortunately, this is just both sides of this team say, well, there's no way we're losing that game. And both sides are wrong. Like this game, to be the right version of this game, I need the final score to be 2-0 with an overtime safety that wins the game. That's the way this game goes down, 2-0 final score, and we're all worse off for watching it. Thank you very much. Appreciate the fart.
There is a chance it's so bad it could be good, though. Like, it could be so comically horrific that it's almost like watching a funny movie, like watching an Adam Sandler movie. Like a bunch of fart jokes in there, a bunch of potty jokes. It could be so bad that it's good.
It's going to make last night's Thursday night football matchup look like the game of the millennium. That's how bad it's going to be. Saints-Panthers on this one. New Orleans, Carolina. A little respect to Carolina here. Is this a Bart or a fart?
This is a Bart. One reason is because I'll be there. So I'd like to hype up the game that I'm going to. Thank you very much. I can't wait. I'm very excited. But this is an opportunity. I mean, the Saints stink. There's a very high chance and a very high likelihood that the Carolina Panthers are 6-4 coming out of this weekend. There's a very high likelihood that the Carolina Panthers have one of the most exciting and underrated offensive weapons in the National Football League in Rico Dowdle. Rico, the Freako, the two-pump man. So I think that this is a Bart because of the opportunity that the Carolina Panthers have ahead of them. Sure, beating up on bad teams isn't great, and it's not something that you're going to write home about. But the Panthers, after the sea of suck that they've been swimming in for so long, being not just above 500, but 2 games above 500, I think is really impressive for this team and a wonderful opportunity for the Carolina Panthers. So I will give this one a Bart, and I'm very excited to go.
Yeah, it's a fart. And you're right. Carolina's going to roll in this game. And to that point, we're going to have a real conversation Monday, in my opinion, about whether or not the Panthers are going to the playoffs. The path is ahead of them. The Carolina Panthers have a very good chance of being a playoff team this year. That being said, the Saints are just awful. Like, as bad as I feel like the Saints should send flowers to the Titans because all we ever talk about is how terrible the Titans are. The Saints are a disaster. And if you thought Kellen Moore was going to be a savior, so far nothing is working in New Orleans. I realize the quarterback situation is absolute hot garbage, but it doesn't change the fact that nothing is working in New Orleans. What about Pats Bucks? Last one here. Pats Buck is a Bart, right? That has to be a Bart. Can we get a Bart? Can we get a can't wait? Can't wait. Woo! It's a can't wait, right?
This might even be a 2-barter. This is a great game.
Can we double Bart? Can't wait. Can't wait.
It was
there we go.
Yep, it's a double Bart. This is one that I am legitimately like, yes, can't wait. This is one we don't even have to sell. Fitz, 7-2 Patriots against the 6-2 Buccaneers. Like this game sells itself. I love this game. Could this game be a Super Bowl preview?
No, but I do think that if the Patriots win this game, then I will. This is the one, because you know me. I've been hesitant at this point. Like I'm damaged goods in my relationship with the Patriots. I didn't want to buy in this year, And so far, we've been on some dates and things have gone pretty well, but I'm just like, I don't trust it. I don't know. We don't know. Drake May's developing. It's great, but is there enough talent around him? They didn't do much at the trade deadline. Is Vrabel going to be able to get this some playoff wins? All these different questions. Like, I'm manufacturing reasons to just explain my emotions of not necessarily trusting the Patriots yet. If they go in and they beat the Buccaneers, I got to just let go of my trust issues, and I got to figure it out. So we agree. Absolute Bart. At least we ended on the best of the best instead of the worst of the worst. Speaking of the best of the best, Ben Fawkes joins us next. Can't wait for that. We'll get some insight on how Vegas sees this weekend and the latest gambling scandals. All that, much, much more coming up next on Yahoo Sports Daily.
I think Yamamoto's an interesting play here potentially at 13-1. He obviously had the complete game win, only giving up one run earlier in the series, pitching again tonight. If he goes another, let's say 7-8 innings and is solely responsible then for them winning and the Dodgers going to win the World Series, you could say Yamamoto was directly responsible, right, for two of the wins himself. I think that's an interesting play at 13-1.
Oh, man, if you were watching Yahoo Sports Daily over the course of the last week, guess what? Steak dinner was on Ben. Ben out here trying to help you. 13-1 odds on Yamamoto winning MVP and now out there doing God's work. Great work by Ben. Good call on this show. We appreciate Ben Fawkes joining us now. Ben, we got a lot to get into. Let's get right into it. Let's have some fun. Thursday, we learned that Penn Entertainment, which powers ESPN Bet and ESPN, were mutually parting ways just 2 years into a 10-year deal. Walk us through how we got here and what it means for most people.
Yeah, so it's difficult to keep up with the gambling news these days between mergers and differing markets and obviously gambling scandals, which we'll get to. But basically, Penn Entertainment had a deal with Barstool way back when. It didn't work out. They sold it back to Barstool and then basically went into an agreement with ESPN, which was essentially ESPN running the Penn Sportsbook under the name ESPN Bet. A lot of kind of promises were made publicly that, hey, with this partnership, we're going to get, 10% of the market share, right? 20% of the market share of the U.S. Sportsbook marketplace. And that didn't really materialize. It kind of was around 3%. I think, as you see Sam's tweet, 2.8%. And so basically, this was a 10-year deal that was an advertisement agreement with some stock options. Those stock options can still be there, but essentially it was a 10-year deal with a 3-year opt-out They didn't even make it to that third year. They basically decided after 2 years, this was announced in 2023, that, hey, we're going to mutually part ways, as they said. And now the Penn, what was ESPN Bet, will become back to the Score Bet. And then ESPN, very shortly after, I believe an hour after, announced a deal with DraftKings as the new sponsor, basically, for ESPN and the gambling content there. And ESPN Bet will remain as kind of a content brand for sports betting content, much as it was ESPN Chalk about 10 years ago when we created that section for the website. So ESPN Bet will still remain in that capacity, but it will no longer be a sports book. And then ESPN will essentially have an advertising deal with DraftKings, which is kind of what they had with Penn. It was just a little confusing, I think, because people said, hey, doesn't ESPN have a sports book? They kind of did, but it was really just an advertising deal with Penn.
Okay, so let's stick on that ESPN and DraftKings partnership for just a second, because I think some people raised a little bit of an eyebrow of this deal going through right on the heels of the college basketball betting scandal, the NBA betting scandal, the UFC betting scandal. Did I get all of them? All the betting scandals that we have going on at the moment?
So far,
So
yep.
it is, okay, thank you. Yeah, so far, we're not going to hold our breath too much. So do the conspiracy theorists have merit to maybe raising an eyebrow here, or is it simply just a coincidence that ESPN is now partnering with DraftKings?
Yeah, look, anytime any giant deals happen like this on the heels of not one, but a couple of gambling scandals, people are going to connect the dots, but these deals take a long, long time to come together. And so it is something more that just the timing looks bad, but this is not something where the NBA had indictments, right, a couple weeks ago on a Thursday, and then on Friday, ESPN and DraftKings were hammering out this deal. This has been something I'm sure that's been going on behind the scenes for a long time. All of these, all of the Penn, obviously they're a public company too. All of this is reported, right? So they know both sides, hey, we were shooting for 10% market share, 20% market share. We have 3. Clearly, this isn't going the way that both sides thought it was going to go. So I think that's probably has been being discussed for a while. And it's just not a deal that comes together in a couple weeks. So I think more of the timing likely had to do with the fact that DraftKings was announcing earnings this week as well. And this is kind of one other thing that they can have to put into that earnings call. And then for ESPN, kind of a fresh start as well. I think some of this geared as well since Missouri is coming online December 1st. And that's why you see the Penn Entertainment deal and ESPN Bet Sportsbook ending December 1st, because Penn obviously wants to go into a new state with a new brand and say, hey, now come bet and download the Score Bet, as opposed to an ESPN Bet kind of situation where you have a head coach, right, who knows he's going to be fired, kind of something you don't necessarily want. So I think that's why they made this early and then had a little runway until that December 1st date.
Okay, Caroline mentions controversies. Let's get into one of them. We're giving out controversies around here like Oprah gives out cars. You've been reporting on the UFC betting scandal involving Isaac Delgarian. Fair disclosure, I think 90% of the world a week ago thought Isaac Delgarian was a character in Rocky IV, didn't even know who he was. But now everybody seems to know. Any progress on this investigation? How are sportsbooks reacting to it?
Yeah, so I went on Ariel's show on Monday and kind of broke down what we knew then, which is pretty much what we know now, except that on Tuesday, Dana White did come out and basically confirm my reporting that he had been contacted by an integrity monitoring service, in this case, one called IC360, several hours before the fight, basically just alerting them to, hey, at some sports books, there was some suspicious wagering on basically Isaac Delgarian's opponent to win in the first round. So Dana White said, hey, we went to both fighters. We talked to Isaac Delgarian and his lawyer and basically said, is anything up here? They determined nothing was, and made the decision basically to have the fight then play out. Of course, we saw what happened. Isaac Delgarian did lose in the first round. Didn't put up kind of a great fight. I think one announcer afterwards graded an F-. There were kind of a lot of people that said, wait a second, something seems off. And that's just grading the fight specifically, not looking at where all that money came in before. So right now, this is kind of a lot of smoke and potentially some fire. I think, as Ariel reported, Dolgarian was cut by the UFC. They're holding his purse. So there's a lot of investigation going on. The FBI is collecting data. Obviously, the UFC is working with them. And it should be pointed out that one of the previous fights, which was back in 2022, that also had suspicious wagering patterns, that's still being investigated. And this investigation will be looped into that one. So we're not going to get a resolution here, next week or in a couple months, most likely. It's going to take some time. But I do think hopefully, they get to the bottom of it and see kind of what it is. As I said, right now, a lot of smoke. Generally, when there's a lot of that money, and as I reported, going one way and no one is betting the other side in significant amounts, that's some of that suspicious activity that we've seen in college basketball, or that we've seen with Terry Rozier or Jonte Porter props, right? That generally at a certain point, people are betting the other side unless there's some sort of other information that is unknown to the marketplace.
Ben, you have done such a fantastic job putting into layman's terms what is a pretty complicated and multifaceted story. So if anybody wants more information on the UFC betting scandal, check out Ben's sit down with Ariel Helwani, because you made me smarter just listening to that. But we have plenty of games to bet on this weekend. Betting scandals can wait. Let's make some money on the sports books. One spread that made me raise an eyebrow a little bit was the Ravens are 4.5-point favorites on the road at the Vikings. The Vikings fresh off of a big win over the Lions. And I know that Lamar Jackson is back for the Ravens, but they're still 3-5. Help me explain this 4.5-point spread in favor of the Ravens on the road.
Yeah, I think there's a couple lines that stood out this week. This was definitely one of them. And I think the Vikings aren't necessarily getting enough credit nationally as to pulling off a big upset as 8.5 or 9-point underdogs in Detroit. But for the Ravens, talking to one odds maker this week, he actually had the Ravens as his number 2 overall power rated team, right? So odds makers are a lot stickier. They're going to wait longer to go off of some of the preseason priors for how they had teams not necessarily react to the records. And also remember, the Ravens as a fully healthy team, both on offense and on defense, and with Lamar Jackson as a quarterback, we kind of have measured that in number of quarters as opposed to number of games. So we haven't really seen this team at full strength. The closest they've been really was week 1, where they had that game against the Bills they should have won. And then last week against the Dolphins, where the defense wasn't great, but they did come out with a pretty resounding victory and covered the spread on Thursday night. So they do have that kind of mini bye playing off of last Thursday. We have seen the public on the Ravens, 72% of bets, 67% of the money at BetMGM on the Ravens to cover. This did open at Ravens 3.5, has ticked up to 4.5 at some books, down really in the marketplace to Ravens -4 at most books. But it's really that power rating that goes into it. We've also seen the total tick up off of some respected action from 47.5 to 49.5. The Vikings actually the best team in the NFL at 7-1 to the over. The Ravens are 6-2 to the over. So kind of good offenses, or in the Vikings case, not as good an offense and potentially not as good a defense as they had. And the Ravens, same thing, the defense giving up some more points. So it really is kind of both of those things. And I think a great stat from the Action Network, under Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings had played 5 games right after. So the week after they played the Lions. In those games, they are 0-5 against the spread, and they failed to cover by basically 12 points a game. So physical game, a lot of game planning going in against the Lions. Maybe you're beat up physically, emotionally. That next week, kind of a letdown, obviously against a really good Ravens team that really needs this win too, right? Both in the AFC North and the AFC playoff race. So should be a really good game, but not surprised necessarily that the Ravens are a road favorite with that health.
I love stat junkies in general, just to even think we should take a look at what Kevin O'Connell specifically has done the week after he plays the Lions. I guess my brain doesn't work that way. It's amazing. Let's take a look at Eagles-Packers in this one. Packers 2.5-point favorites against the Eagles. So what do the power rankings look like, power ratings look like, considering the Packers 5-2-1, but 2 losses were to bad teams? Does this tell us anything about how odds makers feel about Philly?
Yeah, I think not completely sold. The Packers slightly better. When I talked to the same odds makers, he had the Packers 5th in his power ratings. The Eagles obviously would be slightly below that. Generally, home field in the NFL is somewhere between kind of 1.5 points. Some places, though, I think Lambeau is generally accepted to be one of the better home field advantages. So you could even see that 2 points, which would generally say, hey, the Packers are maybe half a point better than the Eagles. This is obviously the first time this season the Eagles will be an underdog, most likely, assuming that line does move. We mentioned that Vikings game. This was the other one that definitely stood out. I think there's a couple of things to remember. One, the Eagles are coming off a bye, so they have that rest advantage. They also have potentially a healthier Saquon Barkley, a healthier A.J. Brown, and they added Jalen Phillips and some others off of the trade deadline. Whereas the Packers lost arguably their best offensive weapon in Tucker Kraft at tight end. So we haven't really seen, again, whenever you're handicapping games, you're not handicapping Team A against Team B. You're handicapping what version of the Eagles are you getting against what version of the Packers. And the Packers also are coming off a really bad home loss to the Panthers. So sure, they could come out angry and all of those things. They also might just not be necessarily as good a team as the Eagles with those players healthy and with those defensive replacements. So Eagles also since 2021, 4-0 straight up, off of a bye, 3-1 against the spread. They've generally played well. Odds makers think this line could go down. So again, maybe going to Packers -2, -1.5, as opposed to up to 3. But these teams in the advanced ratings are pretty similar. I believe the Packers are around 6th or so DVOA, the Eagles 9th. So two fairly evenly rated teams, but I'm not sure if the Packers are necessarily the better team with that loss of Tucker Kraft and the Eagles with those additions. I think it should be a really good game. It's one I'm very excited to watch on Monday night.
Let's look at some futures as well, because we have a great slate of NFL games, but there's also some fun races happening at the NFL MVP conversation. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes sit atop the best odds to win MVP. In a stunning development, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, good. But we see Drake May right there at third best odds. Yeah, who would have thought? We see Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield right underneath them. So do any of these three quarterbacks, either listed or not listed, have an opportunity to leapfrog Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes? Or is this a two-horse race between Allen and Mahomes?
Yeah, we've seen this a lot with MVP. We've seen even more in college with Heisman, where seemingly every week there's a new favorite. It's generally been Mahomes, it was Lamar Jackson, and it was Josh Allen kind of up top. I think Drake May has a potential chance, but now at plus 450 or plus 500, there's not necessarily the value on him, especially as, again, he's going to play tougher defenses. They have a tough game against the Bucs this week. So we'll have a much better sense kind of how he performs and how he performs potentially without Kayshon Boutte. I was looking at one down a little further down the board that pains me to say it, but Sam Darnold at 20-1. I think the Seahawks have been kind of perpetually underrated this season. They're the #1 team in DVOA, so the best team in DVOA across the NFL right now. Their remaining schedule, they have 4 games against the NFC West. So if you think they're the best team in the NFC West, they should win most of those games. And because of how they played last year, they also have some easier games. They get the Panthers, the Titans. They do play the Falcons and the Colts and my Vikings. But I think they're just kind of rolling along right now. And that Rashid Shaheed deal should be a perfect fit in that offense as well. Another speed option. They're kind of under the radar because they're out in Seattle. They maybe don't get the national attention as much, but they absolutely demolished the Commanders in that game that we saw. That game was over in the first quarter, and they're just kind of slowly humming along. So I think they're finally getting some of that recognition. Sam Darnold played really, really well for 16 games last season. Unfortunately, there were 18 that he needed to play, but he's been playing really well for now a season and a half. And at some point, this is the new Sam Darnold, not the one that we remember from those Jets and Panthers seasons.
Well, Ben, we always appreciate your time and your expertise and your knowledge on all of it. One of these days, we're just going to talk about, actual odds and not have to talk about controversies. Oh, who am I kidding? It'll be every week. Ben, we appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Anytime, guys.
Thanks,
Fawkes,
Ben.
helping keeping us smart on all of it. We're going to make you smart next. It's time for Yahoo Sports Daily's Pick 6. Don't want to miss these picks. Coming up next. Welcome back to Yahoo Sports Daily. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz. It's a Friday, and you know what that means. It means it is time to get our picks on. Caroline, this is what we like to do every single week. We take 6 games, and we figure out you've taken a lead. I thought I did pretty well last week. I had a lead, and now you have the lead.
Heck
I don't know what happened.
did.
I
Heck
want to
yeah,
recount.
I did.
I'm going to demand a recount on all of this because I was
Do
ahead.
it.
I thought I was pretty good. No, it's fine. It's fine. I
Do it.
question the math.
Recount it.
There's hanging chads everywhere. That's an
Still
old
gonna
political
win.
reference for you guys. Okay, go ahead. So
do
we're going
know
to
that
pick these 6 games. Thank you. And we're going to figure out who's going to win. And she's going to be more right than I am right now. God, I'm in my feels about this. All right, Caroline, you get to go first. LSU, Alabama. Who you picking?
I'm not going to be right about this one. I lament this game because I remember the times when this game mattered, when this game had buzz. But now my team stinks, and Alabama's probably going to win a national championship. But nonetheless, I ride or die for my team. I'm going to be wrong on this one, but I believe, thank you, I believe in just fired coach energy. So I'm rocking with the Tigers to pull the upset of the century. Thank you very much.
You're talking about rivalry games where everything matters and everything is chaos. You're talking about new coach energy, which is such a boon here for what LSU wants to do. You're talking about a game where LSU, one of the most talented rosters in the country, can prove to everybody that they aren't who we think they are. This is the moment that LSU can plant their flag and say, you have to take it serious. We are building for the future. But it's not going to happen. Roll Tide. Bama's going to roll through this game. Alabama just too good right now. And I just want to remind everybody that Alabama's turn as a doormat in college football lasted less than a year, and it wasn't even doormat. So welcome to that.
They lost to Florida State. That is their one taste of misery, which is unfair for the rest of us.
It must be hard.
Some of us are miserable all the time.
At the end of the day, they still live in Alabama. Patriots at Bucks. Yeah, I said it. At me. Patriots at Bucks. I'll let you go first on this one. One of the premier matchups one of this week's games of the century. What do you got?
Yeah, I love this game. I think it's such a litmus test for where both of these teams are. And I've called the Bucks my team of destiny all season long. I'm not backing off of that, but I've been so impressed by what we've seen from Drake May. So I'm going to ride with the Patriots on this one. They're riding hot. They're riding high. I've loved what I have seen from this offense. So I'll go with the Patriots.
Okay, I'm with you. And weirdly, right now, if you ask me which quarterback's hotter today, I think it might be Drake May, hotter than Baker Mayfield. Yeah. But I still I trust this Bucs defense to be able to make the plays that they need to make. And this Bucs team, you mentioned team of destiny, this game's going to be close. So now I'm asking myself, in a one-score game, am I going Baker or am I going Drake? I'm going with the Bucs. So far, we disagree on all of these. Maybe this is the week that I catch up suddenly.
We'll take the over on this one, though, right? We'll take the over.
Yeah, hammer.
It's going to be like 45, 41. Yeah, it's going to be so high scoring, and it's going to be the opposite of Browns Jets.
All right, BYU, Texas Tech. What do you got?
I think Texas Tech is going to win by 30 points. I love BYU. I really do. They are undefeated. They're not getting enough credit. But I think Texas Tech is just that good and that deep of a football team. And I know Lubbock, Texas is going to be absolutely rocking. I think it probably already is. They've already started tailgating. No tortillas can fly in this one, but they will fly in our hearts. I think Texas Tech wins. And I think Texas Tech wins big. They hand BYU their first loss of the weekend.
You know what?
Season.
If BYU
and also the weekend, I guess.
And the weekend, both. Yeah, it'd be the first loss of the weekend and the
not
season.
Wrong.
If BYU had been ranked number 5, I would buy into this. If BYU had even been ranked number 6, I would buy into this. Anytime you're a coach and you get the ultimate disrespect bowl out of an undefeated season because of the number 7, I just think it adds urgency. You're right. Texas Tech, by the way, not for nothing, I think it's a more talented football team. I'm just going to bank on a little BYU magic. So now we differ on 3 in a row because I'll take BYU in this game. Better team, but backs up against the wall. BYU needs this win, weirdly, as undefeated as they are. Rams at 49ers. Who you got in this one?
Taking the Rams. I love this game. I love this division. I love these two head coaches. I love what Mac Jones has done for the 49ers in Brock Purdy's absence. This is a game that the Rams should win. I view Matthew Stafford as an MVP contender. I view the Rams as legitimate Super Bowl contenders. This Rams team is so good. It is so deep. It is so sound. And Matthew Stafford might be playing the best football of his career, and that is saying something, looking at how much good football he has played in his very long career. I'm rocking with the Rams, even on the road. The 49ers, they've been fun, but the 49ers have been inconsistent.
Yeah, I can't trust inconsistency, and I just refuse to trust Mac Jones yet. Look, it's been a few games. My God, we're still sitting. We just had Ben Fawkes tell us, about Sam Darnold, and we can't even talk about the 2 bad games that Sam Darnold had last year. And we've seen almost 2 seasons now. So I'm with you. I'm taking the Rams because in this matchup, this could be the one that changes my mind, though. If the 49ers win this matchup, then I need to recalibrate my conversations about the 49ers. As you say often, I'm going to steal it from you. Prove me wrong. I would love to be proven wrong here. Texas A&M at Missouri. What do you got in this one?
I'm going to take Texas A&M to win, and I'm going to take them to win big. Missouri will be down their starting quarterback, Bo Prabula. Matt Zollers will be getting the start. Apologies if I pronounced that incorrectly. He's a true freshman, and this Texas A&M defense is nasty. They're going to get after that true freshman and show him things that he has not seen before. Also, on the other side of the ball, Marcel Reed has been playing so just cool and calm and collectedly. Casey Concepcion, their wide receiver that transferred into Texas A&M this year, I think is one of the most underrated skill position players in the SEC and in college football. Overall, this Texas A&M team is a wagon. They're legitimate national title contenders. I'm rocking with the Aggies to stay undefeated.
Yeah, I think Missouri has somehow become one of the more overrated teams in the country to me this year. Missouri's fine, but they're not good. And there's a difference between fine and good, right? So to me, A&M, to your point, is in that they belong in that same conversation as Ohio State, Indiana, Alabama. They do not belong in the same conversation as Missouri at this point. So I think A&M wins and wins big. This is a 3-touchdown win to me for Texas A&M. It's a blowout. Steelers and Chargers on the sleeping on them bowl, perhaps? Are we giving enough credit to each side? Steelers, Chargers, what do you got?
This is the battle of above average at best. That's how I view these two teams. I'll go the Steelers a slight advantage here. I'll take Pittsburgh to win. Maybe they figured something out defensively. We've all been waiting for the Steelers to finally deliver on what their payroll is. We saw that last week. And also Joe Alt banged up. This is a way different Chargers offense when their offensive line is banged up. No Joe Alt, obviously no Rashawn Slater out for the entire season. This team runs through its offensive line. So I'll give the Steelers the edge here.
I agree that last week was the beacon of light in a dark, dark world. Last week was the moment you turn around and say, they've got it figured out. I just don't trust it. And that's the thing. With Joe Alt out, I want to think that the Chargers are just susceptible. I just don't know that the Steelers can take advantage of it. Better quarterback in this matchup is still Justin Herbert. Right now, maybe the better coach in this matchup is Harbaugh over Tomlin. I feel like this is the sort of game. Chargers, too, feeling the weight of the world, knowing what that AFC West looks like. If the Chargers are a playoff team, they have to win this game. If they don't win this game, then what they're really telling you is that we can start having a conversation about whether they can even hang on to make the playoffs in the AFC. And if they can't beat the Steelers, the answer to that is probably no. I think this game in itself is a narrative shaper for who is actually legitimately a playoff team in the AFC.
Are we counting the loser out of the playoffs?
Yes, losers out. This is a loser leaves town match, straight up 80s wrestling style. Loser leaves town. The loser of it might as well not even show up for the rest of the season, which you can already say about my beloved Raiders. We'll show up Monday. Either way, we'll be right here at 9 a.m. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Have a great and safe weekend. Thanks so much for watching this week. Come back. See us Monday morning.